Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bearded Horror Review. My name is Dan, aka the Boogey Man, and on this show I will review a horror movie, either a classic or a new release. Go through it in non-spoilers and spoilers, sometimes just one or the other. Go through some good points, some bad points, if there were any of either. Give it a rating out of 10. I mean, sometimes I forget, I've noticed. And I will let you know my opinion if it's worth a watch or not. This week, I am doing a follow-up of The Nun. So we're going to be doing The Nun 2. Finally got around to watching it, and I'll finally have the time to do this review. Even if you can hear it, I apologise. People are gardening outside, but it's the only time I've got to do it, so we're going to get it done. I know you want to know what I think about The Nun 2.
I want the truth!
Maybe. But yeah, so this is a follow-up, and it's just going to be a spoilers review, just like my review of The Nun. I'm not going to be going through it from start to finish like I have in other reviews, but I will be going through some scenes, telling you about the plot, telling you about some spoilers, and also possible spoilers for the entire Conjuring universe. So, if you don't want to know any of those things, go away, watch the entire Conjuring universe, including The Nun 2, come back, finish my review. Just before we carry on, guys, if you could leave a like on this video, that would be awesome. Make sure you subscribe if you're enjoying this content. Drop a comment down below. Let me know what you thought about The Nun 2. It's a small click for you, but massive help for me. So, guys, let's talk about The Nun 2. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. So, it's a sequel to the 2018 film. As we know, it's part of the Conjuring universe. And this time around, The Nun is back. We've got so much Nun going on. Look who's nunning now. There's just Nun everywhere. We've spilt all the Nun, and it's just gone into all the cracks and crevices, and we can't get all the Nun up. What are we going to do with all this Nun? We're going to call the Nun Busters. And that's what happens in this film. I also realised that my backdrop is like constantly changing. I keep getting new Funkos and new things, and I move stuff around, and I can't help it. I like fucking around with it. It's gonna end up being different again, probably by the next video, so what are we gonna do? Maybe I'll go through all the Funkos and stuff that I've got, because these are just my horror Funkos. I couldn't even fit them all here. I've got some over there and some over there. So The Nun 2, it's set years later, and Irene is now a fully fledged nun. Frenchie is a caretaker in a boarding school in France somewhere. They've parted ways after The Nun 1. Irene is approached by, it doesn't even say if he's a bishop or a cardinal or whatever, by somebody from the church to say there have been similar deaths, just like that happened in the monastery in the first Nun, that have happened across Europe. I think there's 3 in total so far. It seems that going from Romania, travelling west, there is a string of suicides.
It is a pattern. Killings across Europe.
I mean, we know that Valak that likes to make these things look like suicides. That's what she did to all the nuns in the first one. But obviously there's suspicion. We think it's Valak. Even though they never really say Valak or anything anymore in this film. I don't really think they actually say Valak at all in this film for some reason. And she's been brought back into the fold. She's like, oh, I got out. I thought I retired, but they keep pulling me back in. And she's set to try and figure out what is going on, why this is happening. We as the audience know why this is happening. It keeps jumping back and forth between her and Frenchie. Like I said, he's working at this boarding school in France, this all-girls boarding school, and he's clearly still possessed because he keeps doing spooky things. Like he'll just start clicking and shaking and doing spooky stuff and being spooky boy. We know he's possessed because he was possessed at the end of The Nun 1. And if you've seen The Conjuring, he is the subject in the video that is shown in the classroom in The Conjuring 1 of a man named Frenchie getting exorcised. We know it's him. And they even reshot that video with the actor from The Nun to like create better continuity. I think it was like in The Nun original Nun, somewhere in there there's a video that they reshow that video, I think. But yeah, so like he is possessed. He's still possessed. He's got that cross under his skin. We see it. He's still possessed. We don't know why he's traveling across Europe, but he is. This film is very much like the first one. it is spooky scene dialogue, spooky scene dialogue. They are not linked at all, really. But they do a little bit of a better job in this one of creating a reason for some of these scares. But they set up, and then there's like a very loose payoff about 30 to 40 minutes later for each one of these things. But it's, again, it seems like they came up with some ideas of like how to get scares and jump scares in the film. And then they built, transitions around it and dialogue around it. It is full of very Conjuring moments where like people just seem to know these games, or they seem to know this lore, or they seem to have this history, or people just happen to be in these places where these very significant things were happening. It's very on the nose. It's very, very direct, and it's very like, oh, well, that's obviously going to come up later then. It's not subtle at all. It's about as subtle as a brick. But, you know, that's fine. Some of these times with these films, like I said, it's not supposed to be cerebral. It's setting things up, and that's okay. I will say for this film, it looks a lot better than the first one. The first one I found was very dark, very desaturated in colour. I thought the cinematography was quite poor. There's times when you couldn't really see much of what was going on. And if you go back and watch my first Nun video, I've used clips from the film, as I'm allowed, because of fair use. And you can barely see what's happening in some of those scenes because it's so dark and just dreary. This one looks a lot better. It is more competently directed visually. However, like I said, it is just scene upon scene upon scene upon scene. And I don't know about anybody else in the theatre. Maybe I'm desensitized to all of this. But you could see the scares coming from a mile off. The sound would drop out for a good 10 to 15 seconds. And there would be slow, like really slight moving build-up before a loud jump and CGI-enhanced scares. And that's something that this film falls apart on. It's the CGI. They have filled this film with CGI. There's moments where there's practical effects, which are kind of cool. And there are some really good practical moments and some really good ideas, and they just ruin them with jumps and CGI and bang, loud noises. There's a moment where a woman is delivering goods to this school. She's obviously in France, because everyone's speaking English, but they have French accents, but some of them have Irish accents, and some of them have indistinguishable accents. Where it's like she's delivering goods, and obviously it's where Frenchie works, and she's delivering it to his storage room. That's his job there. He's like a caretaker at this place. She goes in, she starts putting all the shelves and everything up, and there's a moment where Frenchie is stood at the back of this kind of place in a room, and he's just stood shaking. And this woman's like, "You okay, brah? You all right?" She sees him, she creeps around the door, she's like, "You okay?" And he's just stood there like clicking. And in the background, in the shadow, there's like a pillar, and you just see a hand come around it. And then, peekaboo, there's the nun. Really, I was like, oh, that's good. And then, they fucking ruin it every time. Like, leave the tension. They just spoil it. They have to have jump scares. And I've noticed the kind of trend with these films is they think people are scared by loud bangs. You're not scared, you're startled. And you can see it coming a mile away. That's the real problem with these. And I was discussing these films with someone, and this is not a bad thing at all, but I feel like the Conjuring films have become horror for the masses, which is, it's very generic, it's very simple, it's basic scares. It's horror for people who aren't necessarily into horror. Maybe it's a gateway film almost, who knows? But it's very, very typical. You're ticking boxes of what they want to see. Another thing that the Conjuring films do, because they want to keep these stories going, they want to keep these particular characters going as well. So what they do is they come up with reasons for the villain to return. And I know this is a trope that's happened in all horror movies, where they keep coming back and they find another way to kill them and then bring them back and then kill them and bring them back. And that does this on the nose. The thing that bothered me about this one is, in The Conjuring 2, we find out how to banish Valak. And that is by knowing her name. Knowing the demon's name gives us dominion over the demon.
Your name gives me dominion over you, demon. And I do know your name.
According to The Conjuring 2. Okay? So if we just knew who Valak was, we can say, fuck off, Valak. Go back to wherever you came from. And that happens in The Conjuring 2.
I can stab you back to...
We learn again Valak's name in The Nun 1. The bishop and the nun both know who she is. So why can't they use that? They just don't. Instead, a MacGuffin is entered into the film a good 1 hour in, like just before the climax. They edge in this MacGuffin of the thing that they need to get. And like I said, but they do set up that the fact that they need to get something and where it is, and they're all in the right place throughout the film. Like, the school is built in an old monks' monastery. The basement is full of wine, and there is a chapel within there that no one's allowed to go into. It turns out the thing that they need is buried in that chapel. That happens where everybody happens to be. That may be why Valak is there. But it also turns out that it's a relic of a saint, and she was the saint of the blind.
Oh, I'm blind. I'm blind.
And when she was killed by pagans, I think they say, and they took out her eyes. And her eyes are in this box, and that's the thing that they want. It's a holy relic. Why this holy relic? They don't say. They just say, oh, it's a holy relic. You know, holy relics will have power. And so she wants the demon wants power. Because the demon's a fallen angel, and if she gets this relic, she will get her powers back. Like, where the fuck did that come from? It comes out of nowhere. So it's very like, they're forcing lore, they're forcing ways to keep this going. And that, to me, it was too obvious, and it was too forced. I said that's brought in like over an hour into the film. A lot of stuff happens that is just scary stuff, and it is just jump scares, and it's just bangs and loud noises. No cast. So again, I'll say none of the main cast are actually really in peril throughout this film. The delivery girl gets killed, never gets brought up after a death, never gets brought up after a death, and the headmaster of the school gets killed. Everybody else is fine. Valak throws people around. She scares them. And there's something that I've always never understood about these horror films is you get the people with the sight. So this is our nun, Sister Irene. She has the sight. And it turns out it's because she's a descendant of this patron saint of the blind, apparently. I think that's what they try and insinuate. Whenever they like interact with our demon, and they have visions because they've interacted with the demon, like they've touched the demon, or like something's happened with Valak, or whatever film they usually have this kind of scenario in, any like spooky, jump scary religious horror film or any kind of. Why does the demon show how to defeat them? Like, it happens every time. We wouldn't have known about the eyes and about the thing. It seems, if it's just a case of, oh, you touch them and it shows you what they want. Well, it doesn't really say that. It seems very obvious that they're showing how to kill me. This is how you kill me. It's like in The Conjuring 2. You learn that getting her name makes dominion over her because she has visions of her while she's trying to haunt the fucking Warrens. Like, she's trying to fuck the Warrens up. Like, it's not just happening. The nun's doing it. Like, she's actively trying to fucking get the Warrens. So why is she showing them how to get out of the scenario? It just makes no sense to me, and this keeps happening in these films. Like, if I was a villain, I wouldn't monologue how to kill me. I wouldn't keep showing up to spook you, not kill you, spook you, so then you can see what I'm after and how to stop me. It doesn't make any sense, and it's very just like, stop doing that. So that was a bit of a rant, wasn't it? Fucking hell. Anyway, but it's by the numbers. We have a new character with a nun that follows Sister Irene around, this American woman who is supposed to be the audience. Sister Irene is, like information dumping onto her. She's given her all the information, the backstory. She's telling her what's going on. She's our blank slate, so she doesn't know what's happening. But she's also supposed to be the support for Sister Irene when she's struggling. But she's just a very annoying, nothing character. She doesn't need to be there. She doesn't do much of anything, and it's always just the same. Like, this happens a lot, and it's fine, but the whole film could have gone without her character, and it's fine. Like I say, she doesn't contribute anything to the film. And it is very similar, like I said, to the first Nun, where they have scenes of things where they wanted scares to happen, and they have laid them out, and they have put plot in between. But a lot of these jump scares and things, they don't contribute that much to the plot in any way, or they're just like spooky things that they've come up with to then link together, and they've laid out the jumps first, and then they've linked together. That's how it feels. And like I said, this film is a lot better looking than the other one. It's not as dark. It's visually a lot better. The director of this, Michael Chavez, has done a lot better job visually than the first film, I think. However, the director and the writers of this film have mainly worked on music videos and shorts and TV shows. And that shows. It shows because it's short segment, short segment, short segment. It's not one long, coherent kind of story. And it's a real shame because two of the writers worked on Autopsy of a Jane Doe, which is a fantastic film. I love that film. I think I've got a review of it on here. You can check that out. But it is frustrating because it is clearly bits, and it's directed that way. It's almost like every jump scare moment has been directed like a music video. That's the segment, and then we have a bit in between. That's the segment, and that's the bit in between, and that's how it's directed. It's very janky. It's very cut something else. And it's very obvious that they worked on TV shows and music videos and stuff before. Like I said, visually, a lot better. Director has done quite a good job. And the writing, like I said, it's like that. However, I looked into what these guys have done. So the previous 3 Conjuring films within like some of the universe that these guys have worked on are The Nun 2, The Conjuring 3, Devil Made Me Do It, La 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 Llorona, The Curse of La 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 Llorona. The weakest 3 of all of this universe. It's obvious. And it's a shame because this film could have had a lot more potential. It didn't. A lot of the scares are in the trailer. The magazine moment, the looking through the grate at the nun in the room moment.
What's she doing? She's standing there.
These are all things that are happening throughout the near the climax, and you see it. And again, the film ends with everything's fine, and then there's like a mid-credit scene of the Warrens. It doesn't add up. And like I said about they did do a good job though of like say setting up where everything will be in the climax, bar the eye thing, because they brought that in at the 11th hour. The monastery that they're at, the boarding school that used to be a monastery, has a chapel, and in that chapel there is the MacGuffin. In the basement of that chapel is full of wine. Earlier on in the film, when our nun is talking to the new character, the other, the American nun. The American nun, she's there because she's been forced into nun life, apparently. And she talks about how she doesn't understand how wine into the blood of Christ. And they go, well, you know, that is faith. It's all about faith. If you believe enough, the blood will become the blood. The wine will become the blood of Christ. And what defeated the nun in the first film? The blood of Christ. And so there's a moment where the wine is all just exploding and going off, and they pray and they have faith, and our nun gets covered in the wine, and because they have faith, it's the blood of Christ. This defeats the nun. But it doesn't. Why doesn't it? Why is she going to come back? And if Frenchie is still possessed now, why doesn't it show that? Why did they just go, oh, now everything's fine? Like, you'd be like, right, now we need to fucking sort out Frenchie. But that doesn't happen. It's just, oh, we're all fine and everything's hunky-dory. Like, no, it just doesn't happen like that. And it's a very disjointed film. It's a little better than The Nun 1. I will say that. But it's still so generic. And just like the first one, it's meh. It's not bad. It's not great. It's meh. It's middling. And I think that's the worst thing you can be. Especially coming from the Conjuring universe. The Conjuring universe has taken a nosedive. Like, Conjuring 1 and 2 were great. Annabelle 1, not so good. Annabelle 2, good. Annabelle 3, terrible. The Nun 1, fine. La 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 Llorona, bad. Conjuring 3, fine. Nun 2, fine. And so they kind of just need to stop. Like, because it feels like they're forcing more and more films out because they want a shared universe and they know it'll make money because people will go and see it. There was 5 people in my theatre. It had been out for a week. It kind of goes to show the nosedive that this is happening. But yeah, it's like I said, it's fine. But it's just setting up for another one. It's setting up for The Conjuring 4 as far as I can feel. It's just, they're trying to link it to the next one. They could have simply gone from The Nun 1 to The Conjuring 4, having the Warrens dealing with Frenchie, and left it there. But they had to have this story in the middle. But it just complicates the lore. It complicates how you're supposed to stop Valak. It complicates why she keeps coming back. It complicates, okay, why has this never come up before? If there's such a massive thing with this nun, how come when they are dealing with it in The Conjuring 2, there is no information on it? The church don't know what's going on if they bring it up. Like, it seems like they're just retroactively making it more than it was, and it's yeah. I mean, I watched it. I didn't jump once. It was fine. It was. I won't want to watch it again. So literally for me, it's like a 5 out of 10. It's in the middle. It's nothing really. I'm glad I watched it. I'm glad I got to see more of this universe. But it needs to stop with this by the numbers formula.
Stop! He's already dead.
It needs to find something better, because the Conjuring films, they're all merging into the very same formula. Cheap scares, a demon, a MacGuffin, a kind of a very basic ending of faith or some kind of new lore, and then that links to another one. It needs to come up with something better. The first one was so clever, and it's just become lazy. And like I said, the directing was better and all of this other stuff, but nah, it's not as good. So 5 out of 10. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Like I said before, it really helps out the channel. I will be posting all of my Saw content over the next few weeks for my Saw-tember, all on Patreon, but I will be doing some side stuff linking to Saw that will be coming here on the main channel. In the meantime, guys, thank you very much for watching, and until the next time I see you, happy watching.